Good morning and welcome to Maryland Snap Ed's P-EBT Q&A. Now, this is a little deviation from our planned series. We had embarked last week on the start of our Fresh from Maryland series, all about buying local foods, using benefits at farmers markets and other locations that sell local foods, and then what to do with those wonderful things in your kitchen. But very recently, the PEBT program, Maryland's distribution plan, was approved. We had previously done a Q&A session on that, talking about some of the intricacies of that program and what was causing the delay in getting that program approved and what folks might expect once it was released. We now have an approved plan for distribution. So we are doing another Q&A session with Maryland No Kid Hungry to talk about what you can expect, when you can expect your benefits, how they're going to roll out, and hopefully really kind of fill in the gaps because folks are really anxious to see their benefits. So before we get started on that, a few little housekeeping items. We will return to our regularly scheduled series next week at 11 with our Fresh from Maryland series. We're going to be talking about asparagus, which is super exciting. You're also going to be seeing closed caption on the video, or you may be seeing closed caption on the video. Actually, it looks like it's not coming through on Facebook, but that's okay. But what we are going to do, we are getting a transcript translated for this so that we can repost this with Spanish closed captions. So you can look for that early next week. We'll post it on our YouTube page and we'll post a link to it on Facebook. We're also going to put up a blog post that summarizes some of the things that we talked about. And if we don't get to your question today, hopefully we will, between our planned questions and the questions that are submitted, we'll be able to get to most of the questions. But if there are any that we aren't able to get to, we will include those in the blog post. We'll also try to do our best to respond in writing to the comments if there's any that we missed. So feel free to introduce yourself in the comments with your county. If you're in Maryland, if you're from outside of Maryland and wanted to join in, you can go ahead and let us know about that too. And like I said, post your questions. We do have a planned series of them, and I will try to get to them as we go. So let's go ahead and get started. We are joined today by Aisha Holmes, who is the director of Maryland No Kid Hungry. So before we launch into questions, Aisha, could you just tell us a little bit about No Kid Hungry and your role there and what you guys do?
Hi there. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here. Maryland No Kid Hungry is a nonprofit organization, part of national organization of No Kid Hungry and Share Our Strength. We are really most interested in working with our partners and with our folks on the ground to make sure that every single child in the state of Maryland has enough food to eat. At minimum 3 meals and snacks, but we want to make sure that not only is that food available, but it's also nutritious. So we are working really hard with our partners on the ground, including the SNAP Ed folks here, to make sure that food is available to kids, that it's healthy options are available to families, and working hard to make sure that also folks are maximizing whatever federal benefits are available to them, so that they're able to really get what they need for their families. So that's our primary goal. In addition to that, we also do some advocacy work. We also are able to fund programs and help to support that process of ensuring that more people are able to access food that's healthy for their families. So that's us in a nutshell, and we're really excited to be invited today.
Great. Well, thanks again. And yes, we love working with statewide and local partners because there's a lot of work to do around hunger and nutrition in Maryland, and we can't all work in isolation. So let's get right into it. So we presented previously on a Facebook Live about PEBT, but in case we have some new viewers who need just the sort of a brief background, could you just briefly explain what the program is and who is eligible? And we did actually have one post from Nita asking about the salary guidelines. So I don't know if we can, provide those numbers exactly, but just sort of a bird's eye view of who's eligible.
Sure. So PEBT is intended to make sure that while children are in hybrid virtual programming, that they're still able to access the food benefits that were intended for them at the school. So each child is intended to be able to have breakfast, lunch, and a snack, and make sure that they have enough dollars to cover that. So the equivalent of that for the school year this year was $6.82. And it was intended to make sure that each day a child receives $6.82 in order to cover the cost of that food. The program this year is we were able to see the $6.82. It's an increase this year by 15% because of the SNAP increase that happened due to the coronavirus. So some folks will see an increase this time around versus last time around. So just wanted to make a note of that. But really it is intended during the pandemic to make sure that children are still able to access that food.
Great, thanks so much. And we will be posting links throughout that can give you a little bit more background on the sort of nuts and bolts of what this program's for. So the distribution of benefits, and this is probably the number one question that we've gotten. It was awaiting federal approval of Maryland's distribution plan, and it's been awarded now, but benefits will be retroactive to October 1st. Correct. So that's a pretty big lump sum. Will it be distributed all at once? And if not, what's the timeline?
So according to the state of Maryland, it will not be distributed all at once. And so what they are planning to do over the next couple of weeks in the month of May, anyone who was eligible for benefits during the October, September, August and September timeline should have already received it. If you were eligible for benefits during calendar year 22 from the October to December time period, those benefits should be coming to you now. Over the next 2 weeks, DHS is planning to send those checks. Not even checks. They're going to update your EBT card to make sure that you have the benefits within them. So be keeping an eye out for that. After that, the month of January and February will be sent in June. March and April, you'll receive it in July. May and June in August, and July and August in September. That should wrap everything up for PEBT at this point and bring everything to zero balance, basically, in their mind. So if you have any questions about what you're eligible for and all of that, I would recommend that you make a call to their hotline, which is 833-330-PEBT. The eligibility for the benefits and the amount of the benefits, and I know that's another question that is I'm sure it's coming, is going to vary per person. And the reason it's going to vary per person is because if children are in school physically learning that day, they are receiving or eligible to be able to receive those breakfast, lunch, and snack. Okay, so if your kids are in school, that is a day that you will not receive the dollar on the PEBT card. If your child is educating from home, that is a day your child will receive the benefits. So each and every person might have some questions about what that means. And I think it's important to remember that this is intended for the purpose of providing nutritious food to children when they are not available to go to school. And so I think everyone just really needs to keep that in mind because the dollar amounts are going to vary and they may even vary week to week. So I just want to make sure folks understand that completely.
Yeah, it is a bit of a complicated formula. We did have a question submitted via Facebook in advance about what day will the benefits be released and if that day will be follow the schedule of dates on the month based on their last name, which for folks who are enrolled in EBT are familiar with the benefits being released on a particular day based on their last name. For folks that aren't participating in EBT, regular SNAP benefits, but are eligible via the free and reduced meals program, they're probably less familiar with that.
Absolutely.
So can you comment on that?
Yeah, so they are going to be released by last name. So there's a schedule at DHS, which I honestly don't know by heart, but there is a schedule at DHS related to last name, and that's how they refill the cards every month. So if you are familiar with SNAP or have had P-EBT in the past, keep your card. That's really important. And that card will be automatically refilled on the date that you're eligible for refill. If you've lost your card, please make sure you contact DHS and get another one, and make sure that they're aware of that. And also, one other thing is if you've moved, you want to make sure they have an updated address also.
Okay, great.
So it shouldn't affect your benefits, but you want to make sure that's looped in.
Right, and so someone in the comments did ask about repeating that timeline. We are going to post a link to the Q&A page on DHS, which was updated recently to include that sort of chunk of months, so that we don't have to go through that all again, but we'll post that link in the chat. We are getting a lot of questions on Facebook about the cards. There's some confusion about whether it will be loaded on to existing EBT cards, if folks either receive their PEBT card for the previous distribution, or if they have the EBT card that they regularly get their SNAP benefits, or if they're in there. It seems to be folks have received differing information about that.
Yep. So if you have an EBT card, hold on to it. That is the card that DHS is intending to use. If you do not have a card, or you have lost it and need a replacement, you need to contact DHS and they will get it for you. If you are newly eligible, especially, you probably would want to make sure. If you're at all unsure, the state of Maryland has a customer service site, which is a different phone number, I'm noticing, from the one that was shared earlier. And so I'm going to put that in the chat so that folks can contact it. It's the customer service for EBT, and you're able to get information from there. What I do want to say is that the way that EBT is planned is the information comes from the school system to inform Department of Human Services who is eligible. So if you are receiving free and reduced lunch from the school system, that information is being shared with Department of Human Services so that they are able to issue the card. So it should happen automatically. But if something should happen that you weren't expecting or you didn't get it, do feel free to call DHS and they'll work that out with you. And
we will post that in the chat. Well, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through this chat and trying to keep up.
Absolutely.
So, and wonderful, keep the questions coming in. Like I said, if we don't get to every single question, we will follow up either by responding in the comments, or we are going to put up a blog post that captures some of this information. We'll also do our best to see if we can find that last name, day of distribution information. I think there's not an easily accessible public source, but we'll do our best to find that so we can post it. One clarification, is the card for the family, or is it or will each student receive a card if you don't have a family card?
Sure. And I'm sorry, I'm drinking coffee. If I don't, I'll start coughing. So, thank you for accommodating that. The family household will receive, if you're already receiving SNAP benefits, that will be on your family card and for your household. If the child is receiving benefits due to free and reduced lunch, but the family is not eligible for SNAP, then the child will receive the card, and each child will receive their own card. So I want to be clear about that also.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to remember. Yeah. And so as you already mentioned, if you have moved recently, please make sure that your address is up to date with the school, because that's how the information is going.
And the other thing I want to is also say, children who are in CEP schools are all receiving PEBT.
Yeah, so if your child goes to a school that everybody gets universal free meals.
Yes.
Everyone should be
Everybody,
getting a card.
everyone should be getting their PEBT card.
There was a question about pre-K students, and that was one of the
Yeah,
more complex parts and really wonderful parts of this fiscal year's extension of PEBT was the inclusion of kids 2 to 6 who are not enrolled in elementary
absolutely.
school. Can you speak to that?
Sure, absolutely. So those kids are thankfully included. And I think that's a wonderful process that's starting here, and hopefully is one that we are advocating will continue much beyond the pandemic. So children who are in childcare settings will be able to receive PEBT. And so it is important to make sure that, as I was saying before, your information is up to date with those settings. There is a system in place working with DHR to get a hold of who is eligible and figure that out. So what I would say to you is I think some of this is still coming together in guidance from the federal government, but for the first time, children in childcare settings are eligible for PEBT. And it's the same thing if you're eligible for free and reduced lunches, you would be eligible for PEBT as well.
There are a few comments saying that the DHS website is saying it will come on a different card from your regular EBT card.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes and no. So if you have SNAP, it's coming on that card. If you do not have SNAP, there is a different card. I actually think the card was shared on your home screen when you started the Facebook Live. There's a PEBT card there. It'll look like that, and that's the card that you'll receive.
Okay.
So yeah.
So regular, if you receive SNAP, it'll come on your EBT card. If you do not regularly receive SNAP,
You'll get the PEBT card. Yes.
So we talked about how the calculation of the benefits is complicated, that it's going to be based on how many days of school has been open and closed, which is varied per district, whether or not a student has chosen to stay virtual or attend hybrid school, or in some counties, full-time school. So can you explain how a family might get an idea of what their benefits should be? Or at the very least, if they have access to any kind of statement or explanation when it is distributed, to show how it's calculated, to know whether or not they've gotten the correct amount.
Yeah, this is, I think, one of the most challenging things that families struggle with, because I definitely like to know what to expect every week or every month in my bank account. And so the best thing to do for yourself is really to contact DHS, because they will be able to access your records and to be able to tell you what to expect. Now, remember, it's all retro. And so that means that this has already happened, and so the data is already in. So it's for example, you may be asking about what you're expecting in the month of September. So I am for sure not going to remember how many days my kid was where in the month of September, and I don't think any parent will. So what I do recommend is that you go ahead and contact DHS, and they will be able to open up your record and be able to give you good information. There really isn't a second way to do it, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, so that dedicated PEBT hotline, I think, is going to be the best place for folks to get these specific answers, what date to expect, and how much they might expect. So
right.
Unfortunately, it's a wonderful program, but it is a very complicated program.
Right. And some folks, if you have online accounts, you may be able to figure it out through your regular online account and send an email and that type of thing. So
yeah,
some folks who have SNAP are able to access through that avenue as well.
And we will post a link to Fresh EBT, which is an app that you can use to track your benefits, both from when the disbursements are made, as well as how much has been spent. So that's a helpful one to have. So sorry, I'm making sure I'm kind of catching up with this. All right, so we sort of already covered this, but what can recipients do if they run into problems, if they don't receive a card, if they lost their previous card, if they don't receive their benefit, or if they think they received the wrong amount?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like a little bit of a little redundant, but DHS has been very responsive to questions, and their webpage, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, really does answer a lot of good questions. But if you're concerned about anything individual, I think it's important to reach out directly and talk to someone at the department and make sure that your concern is resolved. Because in a global way, everything is planned for everyone, right? And so, but there's always, cracks. And if you feel like you fell through the cracks, make sure you're able to advocate in order to receive the benefits you're entitled to.
Great. So, and just to kind of piggyback on that, we are getting some questions just wanting to know that exact date. And again, we can't, it's going to be based on your last name. And you said starting in the second half of May.
Yeah.
So if you haven't received anything yet, you haven't been skipped. And so because that is going to be individual, if you don't know that distribution date based on your last name, if you call that hotline, you should be able to hopefully get your date.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think their goal is to get things out as quickly as possible. I think they understand how people have been anxiously awaiting it, and I believe that they're working hard to do that.
Right. So, these disbursements will be sizable amounts, which is wonderful for families. So what are some tips for families that for making the best use of these funds?
Well, they will be, and I think the thing that if I was having to make those choices, I think there's two places that I would probably think about. The first is, what pantry items can I fill up, right? And things that I can kind of put in my pantry and have long term, and then be able to draw on over a period of time. So those kind of dry goods. And the second thing is especially related to fresh fruits and vegetables. This time of year is actually amazing. And so looking for those places where you're able to make the most of your dollars, I think is important. And one of the things that I know Kid Hungry is really interested in is making sure that farmers markets are able to do kind of that double bucks program, and kind of make sure that folks are able to make the most of those SNAP dollars using a farmer's market, and getting kind of twice as much for the money you have, which I think is a great idea. And those are my two big things. I think is really stock up for the things that you're going to need down the road. And then the other part is we all need our fresh vegetables and fruit. So do what you can to get those.
Great. Yeah. So we are going to post a series of links in the chat about planning meals and making grocery lists, which is just a wonderful practice anytime, but that's going to always help you stretch your dollar. Restocking your pantry, as Aisha mentioned, stocking up so that those things that can last a long time are there for you when you need it. So a list of sort of some items to really stock up on. Also some tips on restocking your freezer with fruits and vegetables, because all forms count, whether they're fresh or frozen. But we'll also post a link to the Maryland Farmers Market directory for 2021. Now it does have on there which markets accept SNAP benefits, WIC, and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition coupons. Now that is always subject to change because those applications are ongoing. And it's actually a static document that the Department of Ag publishes. So it's always good if once you see on there's a market that's in my area, they accept, look for that market's social media feed or other information that they have online through partnering organizations to make sure that that the hours and the information on benefits acceptance is up to date, because those things do change, especially with COVID. Some markets are still kind of figuring out how to operate. We'll also post a link to markets that accept Maryland Market Money, which is a system, like Aisha said, if you've got EBT benefits, they will double that. So you can use those benefits and get twice as much. And it's usually through a token system. It is through a token system where for the amount that you spend from your EBT card will be matched by tokens that you can spend in that matched amount. So you can get twice as much. So this is a great way to really extend your food budget even further, and try the delicious things. I mean, who doesn't love fresh peaches and strawberries and berries and, you know, spinach and all the wonderful things that are going to be coming from our farmers in this season. So just before I let you offer some final thoughts, I do want to let folks know that I'm, you know, trying my best to keep up with the questions and the comments, and that we will, and it does seem like there is some confusion about the Aisha, we should maybe follow up on that, because it does look like some folks are posting that the EBT cards will not be loaded. So I don't know if that's an error on the website, that folks who participate in SNAP will get a separate card. So we can clarify that. You know, we're working with the best information that we have, but if that is conflicting information, we'll get the accurate information. We can post that, but we'll do our best to respond to all of the comments that haven't been covered in the conversation, as well as, like I said, in a blog post that we will post a link to here. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know about PEBT or other programs available to combat hunger in Maryland?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about it, and I really would encourage folks to look at their eligibility for SNAP again. If you are not sure, please feel free to make a phone call to DHS and have a conversation. I think it's an important time, because you do have the opportunity to have a 15% increase in benefits, and this really is critical to making sure that families have enough to eat and that the children have nutritious food available to them. So I would just make a pitch again to make sure that you have looked at SNAP and also WIC. I think those are both federal nutrition programs that really can make a difference and really will make a difference. And so do double check if you're eligible, if you have any concerns about that. We can certainly help. DHS does have a language line. I think it's important for folks to know, so that if you are not fluently or comfortable speaking in English, they can assist in any language.
Wonderful. And actually, that is somebody asked if they had not previously applied for EBT, if they applied now, would that be retroactive if they were? How does that work in terms of the timing?
You know, I am not sure, but I absolutely would try to apply now. I think that DHS could certainly answer that question very easily, but if they have not applied and they believe they are eligible for PEBT because they are receiving free and reduced lunch, it should have automatically happened. But if it did not, or if they're newly eligible, I absolutely believe you should apply.
Okay. Wonderful. And I do want to thank our participants, because I think, I mean, aside from participating and asking questions, also some of you are really, number one, pointing out things that we need to get clarity on, and number two, also answering one another's questions. I think that's wonderful that you guys are supporting one another. Also, we have some of our collaborating sites who work with SNAP-Ed, who you know, are through Head Start sites or schools. Thank you guys for tuning in so that you can share information with the families that you work with. So, like I said, we'll do our best to respond to questions in the comments.
Chris, I have an image that I'm just emailing to you for whenever you can share, and it is an image that was just sent to me a couple of days ago of the PEBT card.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I just wanted you to know that it looks very similar to the one you posted, but it's the new version.
Okay, so folks know what to look
what
for.
To expect, yeah.
Great. Okay, so folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, we'll post the link to the blog post in the comments, so that as well as in a separate post. So hopefully, if you participated in the chat, that might give you an alert that we've posted that once. And again, we'll try to use that both to summarize the information that was shared and put a fine point on some of the things that we want to be able to clarify and respond to questions that we weren't able to get to. So thanks so much. And we hope you all will join us. We're going to put up the dates of our next sessions. So if you are inspired, hopefully by next week, some of you will be seeing some benefits, and hopefully you will be inspired to do some shopping at the farmers market with those benefits. So we're going to be talking about a different produce item Next week, we're going to be talking about asparagus. The following week, broccoli and cauliflower. We're going to have some wonderful partners from farmers markets and other vendors who sell delicious local produce. We'll talk about how to shop for, select, and prepare the season's best produce. And then last but not least, just so everybody has our all of our social media feeds. Those are our locations of our website where all of our recipes are posted, our Facebook page, and our YouTube, where again, we will post this with Spanish subtitles early next week. So thank you so much. And I hope that you guys all learned something. Thank you to Aisha, No Kids Kid Hungry. And we look forward to continuing to have you participate in our sessions.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.